Okay. Mention. Fab. Can everybody see that? That's great. I'm gonna guess that's a yes from everyone. So welcome to today's session, everyone. This is our CIPD student induction and membership benefits session for Northern Ireland. And my name is Susan Heyman, and I am your members, networks, and engagement manager across Northern Ireland and Scotland. But I am based here in Northern Ireland. So if you're ever around and you want to get together for a coffee, or you just want to have a chat about CIPD, anything CIPD related, please do just give me a call. We have a great session for you today. I'm going to try and pull back my time so you're not getting killed with a PowerPoint presentation. But I just want to start by saying there is so many benefits to being a student member, and there's so many benefits to continuing your CIPD membership after you finish studying. And we're going to go through a lot of that today. So I'm just going to get started. Let's see. So the CIPD is the professional body for HR and people development. We are a registered charity, and our whole purpose is to champion better work and working lives. And that is a phrase that I use so often in my role, but it really does ring true. So we sort of, as CIPD, creates this benchmark and criteria for meeting the standards in the people profession. We basically say what good looks like and what we want our HR professionals to aspire to. So many of you are either studying or have recently studied a CIPD qualification. And these qualifications would be delivered through external learning providers. These can be private external learning providers, like in Northern Ireland, we have DMS, which is a fantastic organization, or Queen's University, Ulster. Some of the colleges will deliver CIPD qualifications as well. So we act as a partner and a voice for the people profession. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the things, the cases for why we make work better and how we do it, but you will get a copy of the slides when I'm done. We basically want to make sure we're supporting HR professionals to impact the world of work. So as you know, CIPD qualifications and courses are here to help build your career and help help the profession become more relevant, and really allowing you to challenge the status quo, disruptive, inspire action, influence change. We want you to be impactful in your role. And there are 3 different levels of CIPD qualifications that you would be studying or have studied. So what do we do in Northern Ireland? This is really relevant to, everyone on the call, I hope. But in Northern Ireland, our role is varied and our ambition is big. So we have nearly 4,000 members, which is massive for how big our country really is compared to Wales and Scotland and even the Republic of Ireland. So as we've mentioned, there's lots of benefits that are available to all of our members wherever you're based, but especially in this current virtual world, it's really important for you to know what we do in Northern Ireland specifically, because we're a nation in our own right, and we try and supplement general membership benefits with activities and support that's specific to this country. So because we're a devolved nation, we want to ensure we have a voice in public policy, and also any employment law solutions that are developed are relevant to Northern Ireland. And we develop our own evidence as well in devolved matters. So hopefully the Assembly can get their stuff together this year, and we can see a bit more going on with how public policy influences the profession and vice versa. So we have 2 conferences this year. Mark your calendars, get out your pens. There's a virtual UK-wide student conference on the 18th of March, and that is free for for all students. And then we have our Northern Ireland annual conference on the 18th of May. And we have a special student discount rate, which we will offer to you. And that conference is in Belfast. So keep your eyes peeled for our newsletter. We have a public policy forum in Northern Ireland as well. So if you're interested in understanding public policy and how it relates to practice, get involved with the next public policy forum event. We also run various Northern Ireland-wide networks for senior practitioners. So we have a fantastic branch delivering content in OD, L&D, ER, reward, all the specialisms, and that's open for all students. So we will definitely be delivering content which you can use to reference in your assessments, I'm sure. Or for those of you who are interested in maybe a freelance career, being your own boss, there is an independent consultants group which meets at our annual conference in May. So just to be clear, CIPD, which is my team and myself, we put on regional events which are usually virtual and for Northern Ireland senior people professionals. And then, you know, we bring HR leaders together to share best practices and support the SME community. Those networks are really important because it's CIPD having its ear to the ground and getting a pulse on what's happening out there in the field of HR. And then the local branch events, which are separate, but those are organized by an amazing branch volunteer group. And these events would be really good local networking opportunities for all students or managers at any level, wherever you are in your career. And we filter down a lot of the information that we get from roundtables or from Central CIPD. So with nearly 4,000 Northern Ireland members, it's definitely a challenge to reach them all because it's just me over here in the role. But we do have social media channels and a monthly newsletter, which goes out the first Tuesday of every month. So you can subscribe on the website. And this is the best way to stay connected with us, really. Our team are based in Scotland, except for me. And I'm in Bangor. So again, if you're ever up for meeting up, let me know. I probably said Bangor wrong because I don't have a lovely Irish accent like you guys do. But we do have lots of support from the branch volunteers as well. So if you need to reach out to any of us, please do. So a bit more about myself. I worked recently before CIPD for a learning provider who delivered CIPD qualifications. So I understand a lot of where you guys are in your education and your study. You're starting your qualification, or maybe you're about to finish, but you're thinking about next steps, or what is this qualification going to get me? So maybe you're looking to change your career or get promoted, or maybe you're just starting out as a student. Maybe this is something that you really wanted to get for your CV. It'll definitely help you in the application sift by having a CIPD qualification. But at the end of the day, the qualification is so much more than these designations after your name. The journey doesn't end after you stop studying. You now have the tools and resources to really make an impact and initiate change within your organization. I mean, you should all be really proud of yourselves because it's not an easy task to do a qualification. It's a difficult achievement. And I want you all to be aware of what opportunities are available to you through continued membership. So we're committed to improving professional standards as an organization. Whether you're an employee, a consultant, or self-employed, maybe you're new to the profession, or even if you're an experienced people director, your membership with us will showcase your knowledge and impact in your work. We want to deliver content that keeps you at the top of your game. We want to support you in being really impactful in your role and not just having like a job, right? Nobody wants just a job. We really hope that our students become influencers in the industry, and having the knowledge and the edge above your competition, be a disruptor, right? That's what we all want. But being able to excel in your career, whatever that path looks like. CIPD are here to keep you relevant and to give you a seat at the most important tables in your career and inspiring action. So we can only do this, though, if our members keep engaging with us, and that includes our students. I often compare a CIPD like an HR professional to like doctors and lawyers and accountants, right? Because every year They have to take exams, they have to go on courses, they have to stay on top of that those ever-changing aspects of their role. I mean, you wouldn't trust a doctor or a lawyer whose license lapsed 6 years ago to help you, right? So if someone passed the bar back in the 80s and then never studied again, I wouldn't have much confidence in them as my solicitor. So, HR professionals are just as important because they are the people looking after the organization's number one asset. And the number one asset is its people. No matter what organization, small, large, SMEs, third sector, private sector, like the number one asset for every organization is its people. And we're the ones who are impacting how those people work. So I truly believe that we do have the knowledge and the research to make a difference in the lives of workers and the world of work. And that's our professional responsibility. It's to improve the lives of the people who work with us. I mean, it is quite a big responsibility, but this is the career path that we've all chosen. And, we do it because we love it. And CIPD are really here to support your journey. So sorry, I'm going off on a tangent because I love to do that. I'm quite passionate about what we do. But back to membership. So as your career progresses, just make sure your grade or your designations accurately display your level of impact, knowledge, and capability. So there's an upgrading and experience assessment tool on the CIPD website that can help you do this. And it doesn't matter what level qualification you're studying now. Later on in the future, you might have some experience to add to that qualification, and you can really upgrade your membership that way. So how do we support you in your work? Your membership gives you access to tons of content. There's loads of resources and guides online to help you in your work and studies. And I know it can seem overwhelming. I remember when I studied as a student, I would go on the CIPD website and there was just so much information. It was difficult to decipher where I could go to get what I needed. So I'm going to walk you through just a few of the tabs that are relevant. So the Knowledge Hub is where you go to get references for your assessments. The Knowledge Hub is that main repository for all CIPD content on our website. This is where we publish all of our content to keep you informed as an HR practitioner, as a student, and to keep your knowledge of the profession up to date. So on the Knowledge Hub is where you find fact sheets, research, guides, reports, podcasts, webinars. For me, I studied my qualification a few years ago. I still go onto the Knowledge Hub just so that I can stay up to date on what's going on in certain sectors of the industry. So yesterday I had just a quick example. I had a phone call with the Autism Forum of Northern Ireland. Now, I couldn't remember in my diversity and inclusion training what specific support we're teaching HR practitioners to have for people with autism and other neurodivergent issues. So I went onto the Knowledge Hub and just read a few articles just to keep myself up to date on what's happening there. On the Knowledge Hub, you'll find specialist hubs that offer latest guidance and research on, well, not coronavirus, that's a bit older now, but tackling racism in the workplace. We still have ongoing issues with Brexit. We also have ongoing issues with flexibility. So there are specialist hubs that you can go and look at. And this is, again, just highlighting certain things in the Knowledge Hub, but the way that we see work has completely changed over the last few years. So to make the most sound decision in times of uncertainty, CIPD are doing everything we can to support our members and non-members. So there are decision makers that come to CIPD, such as politicians, chief executives, and they're looking for help and guidance. They want to be educated on the latest issues happening in the workplace. For example, MPs often come to us for short courses or articles to help understand the delicacies of some debatable workplace content. So, we've had different things in the news in the past about the free speech dilemma. Many of you might have read or researched about Maya Forstater. So if you don't hold the same values as your organization that you work for, should you be working there? Can you have personal views and opinions online on your public profile if your organization doesn't represent those views? So, you know, other global news was talk last year about vaccine mandates. Like, can we charge employees a surcharge if they're going to cost the organization extra money for not being vaccinated or having health issues? I mean, some companies are doing it. So, you know, we're at the forefront of these conversations, and we're collating as much content and research as possible to enable our HR leaders to make very insightful decisions for their organizations. And now, as students and members, you're a part of those conversations. So, you know, what does the future look like in terms of the people profession? So the Student Hub, hopefully you've all been on this. This is under the membership tab. This acts as a shop window for all of the resources available to help specifically students during and after their studies and, you know, beyond. But there's practical tools on here, like there's tips for studying, writing essays, business reports. If you've just started your CIPD qualification, you'll need to know about Harvard referencing because it's part of the assessment criteria. If you don't know what that is, there's a brief tutorial. So there's lots of practical knowledge on the Student Hub for you to look at. And as a CIPD member, you have access to lots of different helplines. There's an employment law helpline to help clarify and give guidance. There's, if you need clarification, there's personal legal helplines if you want a quick second opinion on any legal issues. There's a lot of talk about the IR35 tax legislation and how that might impact Northern Ireland differently. So there's a lot of nuances to be aware of, and the helplines are available for you. As a member, you'll be kept up to date every month with People Management Magazine, which is, I love People Management Magazine. I just think it's really informative and engaging. There's lots of information on there about new up and coming rising stars and, you know, who are those disruptors in the industry and what are they doing? So CIPD members also get access to PM Jobs. This is the official job site for CIPD. So you can search for your next role by category or specialism or sector or job level. And you'll also receive job alerts and can access career advice on the PM Jobs website. So that's quite useful information for students. And then supporting you in career growth. So you're probably all familiar with the profession map. This is a key reflective tool to help gauge where you are in your career. And it helps you impact change in your organization, be a confident decision maker, and really outperform your peers. So the learning content is about keeping you future fit. It's evolving as a professional and really asking the right questions to build on those capabilities. So your own CPD or continuous professional development helps you assess yourself against the profession map and really like identify where your strengths are and help improve your opportunities by creating tailored developmental options. So it'll tell you, you know, you really need to work on this specific aspect, and then you can just go online and look at what webinars or what training courses or maybe a conference that you might go to help develop in that area. And then your Career Hub is also under the Knowledge Hub, and this has all of these great tools for managing your career progression. The thing I like most about the Career Hub is there's CV support and assessments to help you like really boost your CV and build. Well, we'll talk more to a recruiter in a little bit. So you'll find out the ins and outs of what people are looking for, but definitely, you know, you want to have the best CV possible. I don't personally think CVs are going to be a thing in the future, but for right now, there's a whole section on how to put your best face forward for interviewing. And then for career support. So there's practical tips here on the Career Support Hub, taking your first steps into the profession, how to progress in a post-pandemic climate, which is super relevant right now. And then firsthand accounts, there's some really great videos from senior members in HR who share their own journey and how they got into the profession and what they wish they had known before they started a specialism, for example. But there's lots of information on the different career options. There are 12 different areas of HR. So you could work in inclusion and diversity, you could work in people analytics, you could work in organizational design and development. Like if whatever you're interested in, while you're studying, you have the option to explore these specialisms as you're going along. So growing your network. Oh goodness, so during the pandemic, most of the branch events moved online, meaning that you can join any event taking place no matter where you're located. We have over 50 local branches in the UK and putting on events all the time. So just hop online, have a look. There's like an interactive map you can use, but really you can just go by what you're interested in. If you type in something about you're interested in retention and recruitment because maybe that's the specialism of HR you want to move into, you can just start attending all of these different branch events under that category. We also have several channels for networking online. So our CIPD community forum is fantastic. There's a careers clinic on there, which offers guidance. The forum also has a group called Workplace Dilemmas and Confidence, which allows you to post anonymously. And that CIPD community forum is where all of our senior HR practitioners who support, volunteer and support CIPD, they go on there and reply to some of these anonymous workplace dilemmas, or if you have a question about something that's happening in work or in the interview process, you can just reach out to them anonymously. The forum's also available in an app as if we need another reason to look at our phones, but it's very similar to Facebook where you can like and comment and create posts and that sort of thing. There are so many volunteer opportunities, so please do get in touch with your local branch. You'll hear more from Rory, who's on our branch committee, in a minute. Supporting your well-being. So in recognition of the increased pressures and personal, financial, or emotional challenges many of our members are currently facing, we've launched a well-being helpline for the UK and Ireland. And calls on here are free and confidential, and phone lines are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year. I think what a lot of people don't know with Health Assured is that when you call up and say you want to speak to someone, like, you will be put in touch with your own qualified therapist. Now, for someone who, I'm American, right? We go to counseling for everything. So like, counselors and therapists cost a ton of money, and this is a free resource for our students and for any of our members. So it's worth going and speaking to someone. I always say, why wait until something bad happens to talk to somebody about how you're feeling? So anytime I transition, when I moved here, I lived in England for a while with my partner, but when my husband and I moved to Northern Ireland, I went and spoke to one of these qualified therapists just to check in and make sure like I was processing things all right, because so much had happened. We had moved to a house we'd never seen before. It was the middle of a pandemic. I hadn't seen family in a really long time. I had a baby. It was like a lot going on. I wasn't sure I was processing it. So this is a great little incentive for our members. You can see now where all of your membership money is going every year. So how are we saving you money? Oh, well, 50% off HR Inform is a pretty awesome resource. This covers you for legal advice as you start your career as an HR practitioner. It's basically a toolkit for how to manage furloughs, neurodiversity in the workplace, manage sick and leave pay, maternity rights, so much more. Like anything you can think of, HR Inform is this little toolkit for a lot of our independent consultants. Love it, and they use it all the time. You also get 10% off all CIPD training and short courses. We have just started something called the Learning Hub. Is it the Learning? Yeah, the Learning Hub. It's basically this fantastic new area created by David Hayden and his team at CIPD. And there's loads of courses on there, so you'll always get discounts on those. And then 10% off events, including annual conference, an exhibition, which is held every November in Manchester, and Festival of Work. So you do get quite a bit of discount for maintaining your membership. How do you become a member? It's so easy. It's very quick and simple process. Just complete an online form, and then we will auto enroll you every year. Your subscription will continue over, and obviously we'll notify you before we take payment. So fees for last year, students were £98. If you were a new student, you had to pay a £40 joining fee on top of that, but I think we've waived that now. So for student membership, it is £98 a year, not a month. Sorry, did I say a month? No, a year, annual membership. Right, so how are we doing for time? We're all right, we're right on track. So right now, I'd like you to hear from a couple of our members. Heather is a recent graduate and fairly new to the people profession. Oh, sorry, that's not right. I'm reading notes from a different one. Sorry. So our membership experience, I want you to hear from Rory, who's on our branch committee. And then we have Neve, who's a generalist HR associate at Citi, and she just got her results yesterday from her CIPD qualification, and she got a distinction, so amazing. And then we have Elish, who is on our student, she's one of our Northern Ireland students and a committee member as well. So if you're interested in getting on the committee and being a part of the branch events that way, please do get in touch. And then we have Simon, who is our HR recruitment consultant at MCS Group and a very good friend of mine. So what I'll do now is I'm just going to stop sharing and hand over to Rory from our branch, who's going to talk us through a few different things. So go ahead, Rory, I'll spotlight you for everyone.
Thanks very much, Susan. Great introduction there. Well, lovely afternoon to all of you. Thanks for taking the time to obviously join us today. As Susan has already mentioned there, my name is Rory Murray. I am part of the CIPD committee and I lead the mentoring member-to-member mentoring scheme. I'm also taking part in the OD network as well. So from my own experience with CIPD, obviously we have a lot to offer in terms of, obviously from a student membership perspective, which I can touch on in a few moments. But essentially, I just really wanted to sort of cover this sort of how CIPD has really helped me set my feet in HR, find myself as a HR professional, notice what sort of skills and strengths that I have, and progress further. And I think one of the main selling points for me from CIPD was the webinars, the materials on the website, and of course the networking as well. I would strongly encourage anyone who is interested in joining the committee to really get on board and make contact. It's a great opportunity to sort of meet like-minded people and to be able to sort of grow your own network and obviously your own professionalism as well. But taking aside from that there, in terms of some of the benefits, the main one that I would probably focus on is, of course, the member-to-member mentoring scheme. This started 3 years ago, well, 3.5 years ago. Started off relatively small, but it's been a very, very, I would say, beneficial benefit to most of our student members in terms of being able to be matched up with someone from a more senior position who has the experience, the knowledge, who can help guide you and obviously help you establish yourself in HR, find out what sort of routes or directions that you want to sort of develop further in line with the profession map, help you, obviously find your way with your membership levels and obviously progress through the different membership levels. We've actually had a few people there who would use it for obviously career change, different specialisms as well. And the feedback that we get from a lot of our mentees is that, it really does invoke a lot of confidence in them to be able to really step out of their comfort zone, really be disruptive, as Susan would, highly encourage, and really make a difference. And I can confidently say that actually, I believe 2 of them have done so well that they've actually been nominated for Student of the Year for the CIPD Awards. So it's a showcase on them and it's a showcase on the mentors. And obviously it's something that we would very strongly encourage. But it's just one of the many perks that you would get with CIPD. And like I said, from my own experience as well, the information and the networking, and not to mention just the support that you get from CIPD is second to none, especially when you're sort of sure most of you might find whenever you step into a HR role, some of you may work in a team, which is great, but some of you may find yourself in a more standalone role. You need someone to sort of bounce a few ideas off, where the CIPD community and their forums are fantastic for, you know, running ideas past other people and getting more of an input from other people, and it helps you build your own expertise. But yeah, that's essentially all I really wanted to cover today. Susan?
That's great. Thanks, Rory. So, you know, how does the branch work? If I can just pose a few questions to you, because obviously I work with the branch quite closely, but for a student, can they just register for events, or how can they keep up to date with what's going on?
Whatever happens with the events is essentially put onto social media, and if you've signed up for your CIPD membership, email notifications do go out where you can sign up. We normally do tend to use Eventbrite. So obviously, if you're already following CIPD on Eventbrite as well, sometimes that will also notify you of any sort of upcoming webinars that we do have. But I would also strongly encourage keeping an eye on the website, keeping an eye on the social media, because some things do filter through there as well.
Yeah, fab. And how often are we doing branch events? Like bi-monthly, I think.
Yeah, bi-monthly. I mean, there's been a few there over the last few months. I think we've had one roughly every month so far.
Yeah.
Many of them have had some great feedback, some great interaction with many of the CIPD professionals, and it's been, you know, getting very, very positive feedback from everyone.
Yeah, and the mentoring scheme's going really well too. I mean, I've spoken to quite a few people who have just joined, and they're really engaged and happy to be supporting our students in mentoring. So it's really good it'll help you narrow down what your options are for the future if you're looking to switch careers or move into a specialism. I mean, Rory's an independent consultant that he's been on loads of calls with me, just giving feedback about what's happening in the industry. And these are the kind of people that you want to be connected with. So thank you for that, Rory. That's great. Niamh, let's hear from you. What are you doing? Tell us about yesterday. I hope you went out last night.
Unfortunately not. I had a work event, so I was working late last night, but I will be definitely partying at the weekend to celebrate. So yeah, so I've obviously just recently finished my master's with Queen's University, and will now be graduating in December, which I'm absolutely ecstatic about. So really, it was during my master's that I was successful for a diversity and inclusion role within a European law firm. And with diversity and inclusion, it was something that I was like always really interested in, really passionate about, but really didn't have the opportunity to avail of the opportunities and really play an active role in this type of work. And while I did have, you know, the basic understanding within a Northern Ireland context, I didn't have that across the UK and then wider Europe as well. And it was really important for me that while I did have some knowledge, that I really needed to understand the current complexities and challenges that underrepresented employees experience, not just within the working environment, but within the legal industry, and as well as that how the HR function, our practices and our policies really impact our employees, whether that is positive or negative, and really working through that and understanding that and how to really implement change. And while I did use, you know, a range of external resources just to really understand the legal context of diversity, it was really, you know, the CIPD and its resources that really allowed me to engage in really meaningful conversations with not only my peers, but clients within the firm, and as well as that, some of our, you know, the hierarchy or managing partner and partners as well. And it was really, you know, about obviously not only understanding it, but having those valued conversations and making sure that I was becoming a valued member of that team, because obviously I was just starting out in that position. And one of the things I really remember that, you know, that had stood out to me was there was a panel discussion around, among the partners about how to measure inclusion, and there was absolutely no way that they could measure inclusion, but it was from my prior research and using absolutely every resource the CIPD had available, whether that was the HR magazine, the podcast, reading the case studies, doing all that research, that I knew the CIPD had already developed an inclusion calculator that not only measured it, but actually provided recommendations for the firm. So we implemented that within the firm, and we then were able to use those recommendations to form part of our IND strategy, which obviously led into the wider HR function as well. And it was something that really resonated with me, that actually there's such a gap between those HR professionals that have a CIPD and have the access to all of these tools and resources, and those who don't. And that was sort of like what set me apart from everybody else in my organization, because they were, the people that sort of made up the HR profession within the firm were finance backgrounds, were lawyers, and and they didn't have that HR know-how. And really it was from me understanding that and realizing that I kept sharing all of the information that I was constantly absorbing from the CIPD. And this actually led on to more conversations where, I was having discussions with our recruitment department around reducing bias, how do we have more inclusive practices, and support, neurodiverse employees, what do we need to do? And as well as that, with payroll, obviously you have the gender pay gap. You are, well, hopefully soon going to be reporting on the ethnicity pay gap and things like that. And I had actually sat down with one of our payroll specialist managers, and we were working through our gender pay gap at the time, looking at the figures, what was our strategy, how are we going to improve this? And I actually got my HR magazine issued that month, and it was all about gender pay gap. And it was the most beneficial resource. I took that in with me. I printed off everything I could from it, because I never had experience before in the industry before, being able to be part of that discussion, and really having that impact and that change. And he had a financial background, and he actually realized the benefit of having all of these materials and this resource and this constant relevant information, which is the most important thing, and how other organizations were adapting. Or in your HR magazine, you'll see what is going on in tribunals and things like that at the minute. Do you know what I mean? So he's actually now seeing the benefit. He's now signed up. He's going to complete his CIPD just to have all of the access to all of these resources, because it encourages him, and he sees the benefit of actually in his career of having this. And really for me, from this experience and doing that, it definitely did set me apart from other members of the organization. And like, even as organizations, obviously we're constantly adapting, we're changing. We've seen the impacts of the pandemic, we've seen the impacts of hybrid working, and even how that impacts underrepresented employees and continues to marginalize them, and how do you adapt and move away from that? And even menopause is obviously a talking point in the moment. How do we support our employees' neurodiversity? And while we were a law firm that it was the first law firm in the UK to have a menopause policy, to have a neurodiversity policy, from reading all those materials, I could say we have opportunities here to improve. And that's what it's all about for me, really, is obviously adapting and changing for what's coming. And while I, have moved now back into HR generalist role, because that's where I think I can make the most impact within City, and I'm absolutely loving it. I've only been with the company now for 10 weeks, I think. So got some new projects that I've been assigned. Well, I've just finished one project. I've got new projects being assigned now in the new year. But I know, and I'm confident that with having all of the resources, whether it's the podcast, the HR magazine, HR Inform, that I have that at my fingertips 24/7, and that I know I'm going to succeed, I'm going to achieve, because I have all of that information there and can connect with different members of the organisation, within the CIPD, to understand, have they implemented it? How can I learn from, maybe opportunities that they have? So yeah, I couldn't really recommend it enough. So that's
good. No, it's great to hear, Niamh. Like, I love to hear these stories of like our newer students impressing partners like that. Nobody gets to walk into a room and say, I know what we can do to make this situation better. And that's, it's really inspiring to hear that you've been able to go in and make such an impact, because a lot of HR professionals that I come across in Northern Ireland and a lot of places I am, you know, they studied their HR qualification a long time ago and then they didn't do anything else with it. So they're not up to date on what's new. They're just kind of looking around and seeing like what other people are doing, and maybe they'll adopt it in 5 years time, but they're so behind the ball because they're just, you know, it's almost like you wouldn't graduate from high school or I don't know, when you're like 16 or 17 and just say, I'm never learning anything else again, you know, but when it comes to HR professionals, sometimes that happens. And I really feel for them because unlike you, they're not able to go into a room and have these great discussions. And actually people turn to you and say, you know what we can do to improve this. Let's work together and make it happen. So well done. And congratulations again on your distinction yesterday. That's fantastic. So we'll just move on to Eilish. Eilish is part of our Northern Ireland Student Committee, she's a Northern Ireland student on our committee, which is very different. Let me just add you. There we go. Hi, Eilish.
Thanks, Susan. So my name's Eilish. I'm also studying part-time masters in HR at Queen's at the moment. So I'm in the final year of it, and then working full-time as a talent acquisition specialist at ESO. So quite busy, and I'm more than happy for any students to connect with me on LinkedIn, like reach out with any questions afterwards. I spend my life on LinkedIn, so feel free to do that. So I've just kind of put together a couple of the things that I use quite frequently and the things that I find really helpful. There are lots more resources, but the first thing I would do is subscribe or bookmark the CIPD NI branch events. That way you can like keep up to date, see if there's anything online or in person. You might be studying something. I know for me, it's been really helpful. If I'm studying something, I'll go and have a look and see if there's any events on, and can learn that way, because it can be quite nice to go out and socialize, different things like that. And then also, if you want to join the NI group on LinkedIn, the CIPD member group as well, I find this really helpful both for university and professionally, because people just post loads of questions and it gets loads of healthy discussion going. You can also post your own questions. It's just a really helpful tool for me. We actually were thinking of introducing mental health ambassadors, and it wasn't my project. It was nothing to do with me, but it like sparked in my head that I'd saw on LinkedIn someone who'd posted about it, and I was able to go off and get loads of links and send them over to our HR manager, you know, so it just shows you that there's so much out there, and discussion is really great in that form as well. I was going to talk about the Knowledge Hub, but I'll skip that, Susan, because you've kind of covered it a bit. But I did, over the past week, was looking at the Learning Hub. I didn't know that was new. I thought I'd missed it, but it's like blown me away. So I bookmarked a couple on like recruitment, data analytics, employment law, and these are all different modules that I'm doing at Queen. So if anyone's studying, you'll be doing them as well. And like they're really interactive. There's different videos, there's case studies, there's ways that you can like write your own feedback on it. So it's a really great kind of tool, I think, if you know you're maybe doing loads of heavy readings in university and you want to go off and consolidate something, or you want to learn a different way. So that's sort of all I would really have in terms of my top sort of tips. But I suppose my takeaways on why I think it's so important to be a member and to continue that is the diversity of material available. Like you've got your podcasts, fact sheets, case studies, learning courses which are free. So that's just incredible to have all that. You know, if whatever type of learning you are, there's something here for you, and there's something that's going to benefit you in a really good way. And I suppose when you're starting out professionally, I know when you get that qualification, it can seem like that's it, but you've got so much to learn, and to have these resources to go back on, you know, it's just a really good tool to have. And also just staying part of the general HR community. It's so important, as we've seen HR evolve over the past couple of years. You don't want to lose that sense of community. You know, when you go out to an event, you pick up one idea that can make such an impact in your professional life. So yeah, just staying part of the community as well. Thanks.
No, that's great. Thank you. And thank you for bringing up the Learning Hub. I know I touched on it, but it is quite new. And I just want to say the reason why a lot of people are like, what is this? Because it is amazing. So when we launched the Learning Hub, we didn't make a big thing of it. CIPD didn't want to launch it all at once, because then what was going to happen was all of our members, you know, 250,000 people get onto this platform and then it crashes and then it's rubbish. So we're trying to do soft launches in all of the different regions slowly. But yeah, I do recommend to, you know, the 40 people who are on the call today, like definitely go check out the Learning Hub, which is quite new. So last, the person we all want to hear from, because we want to know what's going on in the world of HR recruitment and consulting, is Simon Markey, and he works at MCS. So Simon, I'll hand over to you.
Yes, thanks very much for having me today, Susan. It's great to be here. Yeah, I'm one of the senior HR consultants at HR recruitment consultants at MCS Group. I just thought, firstly, to give you a bit of an idea what sort of the HR market's been like as of late. So over the last sort of 18 months or so, to give you a bit of insight, there's been a lot of it's been really busy. There's definitely been a lot of opportunities there, whether that's sort of within HR generalist or recruitment type roles. In regards to why, well, organizations, they definitely started to realize the importance of HR professionals due to COVID. And if they didn't have someone there, or they didn't have enough resources there, that they quickly realized that. And then in regards to recruiters, there's definitely been a big uplift in that. That was sort of due to companies began to ramp up their hiring after the effects of COVID. As well, in regards to maybe going forward, there's definitely been a shift in the market. There's always going to be a demand for HR generalists there, but recently maybe you'll realize there's been an influx of sort of L&D vacancies. So in regards to why that is, it's been becoming a lot more difficult maybe to source top talent. So organizations are starting to upskill their own employees, which is obviously great to see. Going forward, what I sort of think you'll see a lot more of is the compensation and benefits type roles. That's strictly down to sort of the staff retention side of things. If our organizations aren't offering sort of the right salary and the right benefits, it's going to be very difficult sort of to keep their staff and remain sort of an employer of choice. So yeah, definitely a lot of opportunity there for sort of specialist roles, stepping away from maybe generalist. That's sort of what I've seen and what I think will happen going forward. Yeah, for a lot of people here, maybe you're trying to step into HR and you're looking for your first role. So here's just a few tips sort of that I'd have maybe for trying to gain employment. So yeah, having the likes of your CIPD qualification, it's great. It's a specific HR qualification. It's always going to be well received. As you're aware, things are constantly evolving and changing in HR, so it's vital sort of to stay up to date. So that's why I'd always recommend as well sort of keeping an active membership, as you have a great resource there. And then if you are trying to get a role, you might not have the practical experience, but if you have the theory that you can bring to an interview, that's sort of the next best thing. As well as that, sort of having your CIPD qualification, if you are looking at any sort of the personnel specs and job specs, you'll notice there they might sort of have the amount of actual physical experience that you need within a role. Instead of it being sort of 3 years, you might need 1 year and a CIPD qualification. If you are studying or you're going through university and you have the opportunity to do a placement year, I think that's always great. You get your foot in the door somewhere, and then you get to actually physically do the role, and then going into the office, and you are learning off, you know, more senior members of HR professionals, which is always great. In regards to as well, sort of what I'd see a lot is maybe people who they've worked certain roles in the past and they haven't tailored their CV to a specific role that they're actually going for. So if you're reading about the experience in a role, and say, for example, you worked in retail, you might get a lot of people who worked in retail managers that want to step into HR. Their CV is actually tailored for them maybe getting another role within retail, but at the end of the day, whenever they've maybe done recruitment drives, they've done employee relations, they've done their one-to-ones, try and make it as sort of HR specific as possible. I find that's always sort of advantageous to have, you know. If you don't have it there, the hiring manager is never going to know. So that can be the difference between you getting an interview and not getting one. As well as that, sort of allows you, like if you're looking for your first role, sort of widening the net for opportunities. So opening, sort of going for the likes of temporary roles or fixed term contract. Employers, they tend to be a wee bit more lenient with the essential criteria. it's a great way to sort of get experience there, and it'll help you secure a permanent role going forward. Yeah, as well as that, sort of building your brand. So the likes of these sort of CIPD events, you're able to sort of link and network with like-minded individuals. Post the likes of that in your LinkedIn, people are going to see it. You're also going to meet other people whenever you start to build your brand and network, and you're going to meet, you know, different people who are maybe more senior, and it might sort of put you in a good position to put you in good stead to find a role down the line as you've already built relationships with people. And yeah, as well as that, sort of lastly, I think working with a recruiter is always great. So you have someone in your corner who can prepare you for interviews, bring any opportunities to you, promote your profile. Sort of when they're speaking with hiring managers, it's always to have them as much help as possible is always great. But yeah, thanks. That's sort of more or less the things that I wanted to cover. If you do want to reach out to me, sort of get a wee bit of guidance, whether it's on your CV, tips for interview, just even have a chat about what the market's like, feel free to do so. As I say, I'd specialize within HR recruitment sort of at a junior level. My colleague Rebecca Mulligan, she's actually on the call, who does temp and contract recruitment, and she'd be more than happy to do the same as well. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me on the likes of LinkedIn, and that's sort of, if you have any questions as well, feel free to ask away there.
Yeah, I think your LinkedIn inbox is going to be full. I know I definitely want a recruiter on my side if I'm going into the HR world, and I don't, you know, there's lots of different avenues and opportunities out there. So fantastic. Thanks for speaking to everyone, Simon. So we've got just a few minutes left. I just want to open it up to see if there's any questions. Anyone have a question for me or anything that they want to ask one of our guest speakers today, or Simon from recruitment or from MCS? Otherwise, what I'd love to do is if we could just go into breakout rooms. I know there's a couple of people on the call who said they would, you know, speak up and run one of the rooms. But just small groups, just something that if you want to chat for a few minutes, and I'll bring you all back at 1 o'clock just to close and say thank you. Does that sound good? We've got quite a few, we've got around 40 people on the call, so it should be nice just to get to know some other students. So if you are a speaker, or if you are someone who agreed to facilitate a room, please, you know, keep the conversation going, get to know where everybody is at in their studies, whether they're starting or ending. And I'll bring you all back in just like 7 minutes, 5-6 minutes. Thanks. There we go. Oh, you know, sometimes Teams, it's just so slow. Sorry, Anna, let me just get you into a room. Hi, Anna. I'm just going to bring everybody back now. So I won't bother to put you in a room.
Sorry about that. It just kept kicking me off every time I tried to join a room.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No, it's not your fault. Let's see. I'll close these up. Bring everyone back. It's 1 o'clock anyway, so we'll just do a quick wrap up before I let everybody go. Fab. Thanks, guys. Sorry if I cut anyone off. I always feel like in a meeting, sometimes when the meeting's going over, I wish there was like a close button so I could just stop everyone talking. Done. Thank you guys for that session. So a few of the conversations I heard while I was popping in and out of rooms was just around like where people are studying and where they are in their studies. So we have the Northern Ireland Awards, which I mentioned, and those happen every October. There is an opportunity to do a student nomination. You can nominate yourself. We actually like hope people do nominate themselves, but nominate yourself for the student nomination. If you've had a good experience studying at your center, whether it's, you know, CERC, Ulster, Queen's, DMS, wherever it is, like, please do think about nominating the HR practitioner that's been delivering your content or a fellow student, because the awards are so much fun. Simon, can you attest to the awards being fun?
Yeah, I think me and Rebecca both can. It was, yeah, very good. I had a great night by all.
Fab, I know, very fun. So, okay, I will leave you guys to it. If you want to get in touch with any of the speakers or myself on LinkedIn, please do. But it's 1:01. I think we're all sort of chatted out. Everybody was having good conversation, but we won't extend it any longer because I know a lot of people have to run. So I'll speak to you all online. Happy to meet up and grab a coffee if you reach out to me. And thanks again.
Great. Thanks
care,
very much.
everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.